everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danae and today I'm going to do some collage. I'm starting here in my art journal with some gesso and some golden high flow acrylic. I've taped my edges because I want a really nice border around my collage. So the gesso is going to help seal those edges so that none of the paint leaks underneath. I have a video on how to make perfect borders every time, and I will link that for you in the description. So I'm just adding the white gesso and a little bit of that high flow acrylic, which gave me a really pale blue. And I'm going to use for my collage today some papers that I made in a previous video. So I'll link that for you as well in case you're interested to see how I made some of these papers. And now I'm just using that same high flow acrylic and I'm just making splatters into the background. And just to give some interest, just to make it a little bit fun and whimsical. And I'm going to let that dry completely. So here I removed the tape. You can see those perfectly straight borders. There are no leaks underneath any of the areas of the tape. This is a great technique. It is foolproof. I've never had a problem. So make sure you check out that video if you are really interested in creating perfectly straight borders every time. And here I'm just showing you, this is the tape. The tape itself is very interesting and you can use this tape. You can save it and use it as washi tape. So that's going to dry completely. And here are some of the papers that I'm going to use today. And if you saw my video on how to layer papers on the gel plate, a couple of these pages will look familiar to you, including this one, which turned out amazing. I love it. It's blue and fluorescent green. I think it's ultramarine blue, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. So what I'm going to do today is just create some squares. This is a very simple collage. Anyone who has any scrap paper can do a collage like this. They're really fun. I've done several. I have some other YouTube videos. You can check those out as well. And I'm just looking for some interesting background pieces. I like to do 6 squares. You can do bigger squares. You can do smaller squares. You can do circle. This is just a way to use up some of those prints you've got hanging around that need a place to go. Or this is also a great project to do if you're feeling maybe a little bit stumped in your creative process and you need something just to be fun, to get your creative mind flowing, and still end up with a really great project at the end. Like I said, this is just my art journal. It's Fabriano paper. It's a mixed media paper that is 110 pounds and it's a 7 by 10. So I'm just going to lay out all of my squares and I'm looking for interesting shapes, interesting designs, and I want to mimic some of the papers. I want them to repeat. So if I've used some of the papers in a background, then I want to bring that same paper forward to the foreground. Even though I have a lot of different papers, I want to stick with some repeated patterns as well. And you can make this as complicated as you want. You can make this as simple as you want. Anyone can cut squares and create a beautiful collage like this. So it will end up a fantastic piece for your art journal. You can use this same idea to create card fronts. It's just a really easy, fun way to use your art supplies and create something that's beautiful. So here I'm going to use this Stampin' Up I need something a bit thicker to make the punch work. So I've just grabbed a piece of, it's a little bit more like a cardstock, and I've put it underneath so that the punch has something to punch through. There it is again. Just because these papers that I'm using, a lot of them are rice paper, so they're very thin and they don't like to punch. So if you have a thin paper and you're trying to punch through it, try adding something a little bit thicker underneath, like a cardstock, and then you should be able to punch them really easily. And of course, you don't need a punch to create any shapes. You can rip your paper, you can draw a shape on the back and cut it out. You can freeform cut your shapes. You definitely don't need any punches to create interesting patterns and shapes. If you really like botanicals, you can cut flower shapes, leaf shapes. You can be really precise and make all of these squares exactly the same and really straight on the edge. I like things to be a little bit wonky. I think that for me is just more interesting to look at. Here I've cut a square. I had a piece of paper that had, triangles. I had triangles on the print, and I've just added another triangle into the center to make it more interesting. And again, here you can layer as many layers as you want, and you can mix and you can match your shapes and the sizes. This is a really fun way to use your scrap and to just get your creative juices flowing. I like using really bright colors. You can make these really muted colors or really earthy colors. It's a lot of fun. So now I'm going to glue these down using this semi-gloss gel. I was actually going through some supplies I had kind of tucked away in a cupboard, and I found this mostly empty jar of golden semi-gloss gel, and I thought, oh, I've got to use it before it dries out completely. So I was happy to find that. And again, I'm not measuring anything, so they're not going to be precisely centered or exactly evenly spaced from each other. And for me, that's okay. But if that's something that really makes your art pop and makes you feel really creative, then definitely, follow your own process in that. After I glue down all of the bases, then I'm going to start building upwards. Some of these pieces have maybe 3 or 4 or 5 little layers, and this one at the bottom right, it's 2 layers, the base layer and then that really interesting triangle. I don't know, it reminds me of like arrowheads or something. So that's just 2 layers. So some of these layers have many layers, some have only a few, and you can add as many layers as you like and create your beautiful piece of art. I like them to overlap, but I do try to keep each square kind of in its own sphere. But within each square, then those pieces can overlap and they can mingle with each other, and it creates very interesting depths and patterns. A lot of these papers I used stencils to make. I love stencils from Joggles especially. I have stencils that I've got from Amazon and from Stencil Girl and from a variety of places, but really my favorite stencils come from Joggles. I also create my own stencils, which creates some really unique patterns. So if you're interested in any of these patterns that you see, you can drop me a note and I will let you know how I made that pattern. I have a video on how to make stencils just from stuff you have laying around your home. You don't have to buy expensive stencils to make beautiful patterns. You can use things that you have around your house and they work amazingly well. So now this is dry and I want to add some little doodles to it. I am not a great doodler. My doodles typically involve lines and dots and maybe a few little swirlies. So I keep it very simple. You can certainly make yours as complicated or as simple as you like. If you have incredible drawing talents, then you should definitely highlight and showcase those talents. This is a great pen I like to use. It's a Signo Uniball Signo pen, and I have it in white and I have it in gold as well. I don't use the gold in this video, but they work really well. And it's on top of all that acrylic paint and the acrylic medium, and it still will draw out and has a great pigment quality to it. So I recommend those. So even though my doodles are simple, I do think they add interesting elements and interesting touches to the artwork. Something else to just sort of look at when you're looking at this little piece, you might start by seeing all of the random, colors, the big vibrant colors, the big squares, and then as you look closer, you start to see some of these smaller elements. And so that always makes it a little bit more interesting to just add some finishing touches. And of course, you don't need those either. You can just be happy with the collage pieces on their own are really beautiful. Sometimes when I do this, I add an outline to each of the collage pieces to really highlight them, kind of like what I'm doing here. I'm giving this blue piece a little bit of an outline. I didn't do it on this one, but certainly that's an option. And here it is. I'm going to let it dry all the way, but I'm really happy with it. It was a quick, easy project. It was fun. It was creative. It let me use my scraps and my papers. And it's this big, bold, beautiful art that I'm going to have now in my art journal. I could also remove this and frame it. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you will grab your scraps and make some beautiful art. And in the meantime, you can check out some more of my videos here. Happy creating, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!